because there's tons of these calls coming out of the ESD, people saying, oh, I see a person that makes me feel uncomfortable. Those calls have surged all over the city and inside the ESD. It's questionable whether any of this action is going to result in a single solution. So I hope that when you were listening to Commissioner Hardesty and Ibrahim talk, that you will realize that we need to have better, more active periodic review on this process, so that even if the number of service request calls in the ESD go down, but they just moved back across the river to this side or further into the Buckman neighborhood or further into the Lloyd, we've completely accomplished zero except throwing some money around. So please think about oversight and metrics. Thank you.
Thank you.
Last three are Sarah Davida McBride, Elizabeth Kinnaman, and Patrick O'Hara.
Last but not least. Good afternoon.
Hi, my name is Patrick O'Hara, MD. I'm a general surgeon and I'm the board president of Oregon Physicians for Social Responsibility. Oregon PSR has endorsed the Compassionate Change District proposal, but just to be clear, we have not taken a position specifically on the proposed ESD. So these are my personal comments. I think the economic boom of the east side is a coin with two sides. On one side is thriving businesses and lots of money being made on development. And on the other side of the same coin is displacement, gentrification, and houselessness. And these two phenomena are related. I personally oppose the ESD. I think the overarching philosophy of an enhanced service district, this approach is too misguided to salvage with some well-meaning tweaks. This is still an approach that foremost enhances enforcement, not services. It fails to address the root cause of people being on the sidewalk. They are not housed. I support the compassionate care proposal, not an ESD. If we're going to raise and spend millions of dollars, let's use it to get to the core of the problem. Let's fund mental health services, addiction services, affordable housing, and getting as many people housed as possible. I can only see supporting an ESD as a small portion of a much larger effort that allocates the needed resources to deal with houselessness and the housing affordability crisis that we face. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you everybody for your testimony, and I appreciate everybody's diligent efforts to keep the testimony in the 2-minute time frame. I know that's difficult, and I really appreciate that you worked hard to make that the case. So colleagues, we have before us two separate ordinances. At this point, we could ask questions of staff, or this is an opportunity for discussion, or we can call the roll. Does anybody have any further questions, comments? Very good. Then with regard to item number 98, the substitute ordinance, Carl, please call the roll.
This is obviously a very important moment for our city, for the Central East Side, and for people who live outside. This is a new kind of proposal, which I hear is not as far as many of the advocates would like to go. It's a lot further than we've been for quite some time. I vividly remember meeting with the East Side, the Central East Side Industrial Council and their property owners with Right to Dream 2 with Mayor Hales when we were trying to put Right to Dream 2 at Southeast 3rd and Harrison. And hostile might be a good way that I felt, at least, what was meant. But part of what the conversation was, Mayor Hales said to there was concerns about, we already have a lot of people living outside, we have a lot of problems in the district. If you put Right to Dream 2 there will be more problems. And part of Mayor Hales' response was, well, then you should form an enhanced service district and do what the West Side has done in terms of providing some services. And the answer at that time was, no, that's your job. Well, now the property owners are voting to tax themselves, and the tenants are also presumably going to be providing some of that funding. And they've come up with a proposal which attempts to look at everyone's interests around safety and stability. There's still a lot of work to do, and I greatly appreciate the Compassionate Care Coalition for your steadfast advocacy for houseless Portlanders. This proposal is much stronger and more inclusive than it was a month ago. And in particular, thanks to Ibrahim Mubarak, Lisa Fay, Sandra Comstock, and many others in that coalition. The votes Workers' Rights, the Workers' Centre has also been extremely helpful. I want to thank Barry Sutton, who is a frequent visitor to each of our offices, advocating for more services for people on the Central East Side. I think he had to leave, but I do want to thank Barry for continually bringing this to our attention on an ongoing basis. So if you think that we don't hear about this, know about this, of course many of us are on the Central East Side a lot, so we see it with our own eyes. If we didn't, we would certainly have Barry reminding us, and I appreciate his advocacy. Thank you, the East Side Industrial Council, especially Kate Merrill, Juliana Lukasic, and Brad Molson for your responsiveness to the compassionate change proposal and for the resulting revisions which should give houseless individuals and advocates a real and more equitable position at the table. As was pointed out, that is easier said than done. And in particular, when there was only one representative of the houseless community on a committee, well, of course nobody wants to show up and be the only one. I was the only woman on the council for 8 years, I know that. And we are, so the support, the proof will be in, can you make this work? And I do appreciate that there is much more acknowledgement of the need to be welcoming and inclusive and truly mean that. So I support Commissioner Hardesty in asking for a report before the end of the year. One of the things that I will be looking for in that report is, are the people who started serving on that committee still serving on that committee? Have they felt like they have been included? And I'd ask also for you to include all of our offices in, as you prepare for that report, to make sure that we are going to get the information that we need. Thanks, Commissioner Hardesty, for your leadership on this, and Derek Bradley on your staff, Jamie Duhamel on Commissioner Daly's staff. Thank you, Commissioner, for your suggestion of requiring a report on police contacts. That's very important because the safety ambassadors are ambassadors who are going to be helping with trash cleanup and providing contact connections to community services. They are not empowered to move people along. I think that's really important to emphasize that. Thank you to Seraphy Allen in the Mayor's office and Asena Lawrence in Commissioner Fisher's office. Every member of the council had staff who were very diligently engaged in this on almost a daily basis for the last month. Thank you especially to Claire Adamsick on my staff. And I'll be watching this, as you know. I've been concerned ever since I started helping Right to Dream to find a new spot, and I'm happy that they're there, but that's a permanent, a temporary spot too. And we need 20 Right to Dream 2s all over the city, or 40 or 50, so that people can have safe space, that they organise themselves and they take responsibility for that. I was very encouraged to hear the Lloyd Enhanced Service District representatives coming in and saying they've looked at yours and they are going to learn from you. And hopefully we can all learn from you that this is a better way to do things in a way that doesn't put other taxpayers at risk and provide services that just so desperately need. Thank you all. Bye.
Fish.
First of all, I just want to apologize to my colleagues and some of the people who testified. I've been in my office watching the testimony, but there was a fire in my son's high school this morning, and in order for him to be released, I had to do a little two-step, and he had to get actually on the phone with someone to authorize him to go home. He's assured me he's going to go home and do his homework. Yeah. But I was watching the testimony while navigating a family issue, so I hope people understand that it was not intended as disrespect. I want to begin by thanking Juliana Lukasic. And I have been mispronouncing her name for years, so I'm glad that she keeps reminding us. Lukasic. Lukasic. Well, I've continued a well-established trend of mispronouncing your name, but I think in a prior life it was Lukasic.
Yes, I'm sure it was.
That's how it reads phonetically. Lukasic, Kate Merrill, and Brad Malzahn for their genuinely collaborative leadership in developing this ESD for the Central East Side. You started this journey years ago, working with local business owners to build a plan for extra services in the Central East Side, services, frankly, that the city just doesn't have the capacity to provide. And you have been responsive to concerns raised by the community and by council about how to improve this plan, which is, I think, going to provide a model for how we engage other parts of our city that may want to have an ESD. And I think my guess is that we're going to have more of these conversations in the future. I'm particularly pleased with a number of the innovative services that you've landed with. Unarmed safety ambassadors who will help connect people in need with social services. Ensuring that security personnel have annual trauma-informed training that is co-facilitated by people experiencing homelessness. Providing workforce development that consists of internships and jobs for people experiencing homelessness, a crucial piece of this approach. Having an oversight committee specifically for your safety program to make sure that it is working effectively. And I appreciate the CEIC and the ESD leadership's willingness to acknowledge that this is a start and there will be changes in the future, adapting to what we learn and with the goal of making this work for everybody. You are clearly focused on sensitive and thoughtful services for people in need while maintaining a safe environment for everybody that works in the district. And I think sometimes in these conversations we forget that the CEIC didn't actually have to do this. It didn't have to organize, didn't have to plan, didn't have to come to council, because businesses in the Central East Side are actually not required to pay extra fees to get these additional services. And this is a big lift. And as you alluded to diplomatically, there was some resistance when you first raised this for people saying, well, why isn't the city just providing these services? And the truth is, there are limits to what the city can do. This is a choice. And I think you've made a choice that will hopefully better our entire community, including the CEIC. I have a few people I want to thank. Commissioner Fritz really got the laundry list out. I want to remember the mayor's admonishment that we don't want repetitive testimony, so I'm not going to repeat all the people she thanked other than to associate myself with what she said. But I want to thank my chief of staff, Sonia Schmansky, and Asena Lawrence. We have met with all of the players in this. They've taken the bulk of the meetings, advocacy groups, community members, people who have a stake in this one way or another. They've attended meetings with the mayor and with my colleagues and with staff of the council. And the truth is, this has been a very collaborative process. It is one in which a lot of people have been involved in kibitzing and in engaging and in advocating. But at the end of the day, a collaborative process that the CEIC had to embrace. We would not be poised to give you a 5-0 vote of support if you had not embraced the suggestions and the concerns raised by the community and taken what I thought was a model ESD. And I've been around long enough to know how we run other ESDs. You started with a model ESD, and I think it's fair to say you've made it even stronger. So thank you for that leadership. And to me, that's the best indicator, that's the best insurance policy I have about future, is and predicting your future behavior, is how you've engaged this process to get to this point. I'm proud to support this ESD. I thank you for your hard work. I thank all my colleagues for their contributions to this and to the work that has led up to this moment, and I'm pleased to vote aye.
Hardesty?
This has been a long process. I want to greatly appreciate the work of the CEIC leadership, Kate, Brad, and Juliana. You didn't have to come to all of us. All you had to do was count to 3. You were already ready to go. You knew you had at least 3 votes. You did not have to take the time that you took to really listen carefully to the compassionate care proposal and to do your best to try to weave what is a business interest with a community interest. I want to applaud the fact that I think that most people don't understand that you are taxing yourself to provide a service in a community that is lacking these resources. And in addition to that, you are creating an opportunity to work with the houseless community as real partners and making sure that this will be a real model. Before I participated in this process, I never ever supported an ESD. because all the ones prior to this were really about removing people that people were uncomfortable with enhanced security. I believe the CEIC absolutely is committed to the hard work, but I know it won't get easier from this point. There are a lot of needs in our community that, as my colleague Nick Fish said, that the city just cannot fully fund at this time. And so you are taking on some of our responsibility. But I want to put on the record that I am also, and my colleagues are responsible for doing our fair share. We have to work with you to find a safe rest area within the